Guys, what is up? Today we are doing a very special list, one I've been wanting to do for a long time, one that's going to be near and dear to my heart, and I know a lot of people that follow me on here will enjoy it as well. Today we are talking about what I believe are the top 10 greatest Grant Morrison stories. Grant Morrison, of course, my favorite writer, a lot of people's favorite writer, a lot of people's least favorite writer, a man that is quite divisive, that has written some of the best, most direct comics in the universe, and some of the trippiest, craziest, most subconscious, mind-altering, bending books in the universe. He is a man that has a giant, prolific career at this point in time. He has written everything from Batman to Superman to Doom Patrol to Zenith to a lot that we're going to be talking about on this very list. We're going to just jump into it because I think there's enough preambles for Grant Morrison in a lot of other shit I've done. So today, we're just going to talk about his work. So for me personally, number 10, I'm starting off with Multiversity. Multiversity was the long talked about, long time in the works book that for a lot of fans we thought we'd never actually see. He talked about it for years and years before it came out, to the point where we never thought it'd see the light of day. And it finally did, and when it did, it not only lived up to the hype, but exceeded it. This was a story that has become kind of the groundwork for a lot of the current DC universe, from everything Snyder's doing on Metal, to some of the things that Bendis has played with, to even some of the stuff that Johns and King have played with. He set up, in the issues of Multiversity, the 9 issues, he set up literally the roadmap to the multiverse. Going back to Snyder, something that in Metal and stuff leading up to Metal was heavily featured, including a map. And the artist team on this alone, it wasn't just him, but you had Frank Quitely, Ivan Reis, Cameron Stewart, Chris Sprouse, Carl Story, Ben Oliver, Doug Mankey, also a killer's row of incredible inkers and colorists. All around, this is a book that I think for DC fans is a must read, especially in the current modern day. I think in a lot of ways it was Morrison kind of showing that he could do other people's style just as well, if not better. You had stories in there that were Morrison being a better version of Alan Moore than Alan Moore is currently. You had issues where it's Morrison imitating and being a better Millar than Millar is currently. You had him looking at artists at their prime and what they brought their universes and kind of proving that he can do it too, but also wrapping it up in this crazy, weird, cosmic, so dumb yet intellectual story that I think has become quickly a cult classic. But the shocking thing that it has become the spine in a lot of ways to the modern DC universe. That's something I never, ever thought would happen. We're just going to keep on moving pretty fast through this because, for those who don't know, I have a podcast, Blah Blah Comics, Blah Blah Curse Words, and the New Weird, and we talk a lot about Morrison. So if you want to hear us go, specifically me, go more and more in depth on all things Morrison, check those out. I'll probably link those below. Number 9, one that I don't think is as much love as it should. He teamed up with Philip Bond in 1995 for the one-shot that is Kill Your Boyfriend. This is one of those stories that it's straight, quick, punk rock, hit you in the gut, keep moving type of thing. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. It is a fucking blast. It captures that angst of youth, captures the love lust, captures wanting to do more and being bigger than who you are, but thrown in with a murderous grin throughout. It is sarcastic, it is grimy, but it's also just so fucking good. It is one I think more people should experience. A lot of books on here people will know exist, but this is one I think that gets overlooked a lot. Kill Your Boyfriend. Go seek it out. Go check it. It's one of the shorter ones on the list, if not the shortest. It is. It's been reprinted recently with Venorama in a big deluxe edition that's beautiful. You should definitely go check it out if you never have. And if you... Honestly, there's several shows on Netflix. Into the Fucking World, which is, I know, in itself based on another book, but a book that was clearly inspired by Kill Your Boyfriend, or the share similar ideas at the very least. Go check it out. Please, do yourself a favor and go check that out. Number 8 on this list, another one that I think Was very popular when it came out, but right now doesn't get as much love. Came out 2005 with Frank Quitely, his longtime collaborator, someone that will pop up a bunch on this list. We Three, essentially, Watership Down meets Pixar, the meets Homeward Bound. The story of three pets have been turned into mechanical monsters and mechanical killing machines. Another one that is a short one, only a couple issues, 3 issues, I believe. And it is just so heartbreaking at moments and so heart wrenching at moments, and really, really pulls you into the world that he creates. And it's something that Grant Morrison has excelled at since early in his career, building these crazy worlds off of crazy ideas, but making them feel real, relatable, and understandable. Something that a lot of people have trouble with, but he just does effortlessly. And I think this is a great, great example of that. Number 7, one of the books on here that people will probably most know, a lot of people on here will recognize. Of course, with Dave McKean, 1989, October that year, you had him do the European answer to Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, and he came out with Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth. The most dreamlike, crazy, anti-American Batman story you can find outside of maybe Batman Judge Dredd. It is Morrison still early enough in coming to the States and early enough in coming to Vertigo and DC and everything that he would become known for in the coming years after that, that he had so much of that smarmy British sarcasm and deconstructionism. And also, he didn't have, as much as he loved superheroes, he wasn't afraid to look at Batman or Joker or Two-Face in a completely different light. This also is a book that's become so influential, introducing ideas like the super sanity of Joker, introducing ideas that to this day with Two-Face we see. It's a book that is very lyrical, very beautiful, very majestic, and it is, I keep saying it, but I don't think it's enough credit for being the polar opposite of Dark Knight Returns. And I love Dark Knight Returns, but this is the other end of the spectrum. This is a extremely artsy, extremely out there, extremely great Batman book. And if you've never read it, you really should. And that kind of ties to my next one, because my number 6, it'd be too hard for me to pick one. A little bit of a cheat, but I'm putting his Batman run. His proper Batman run that ran for several years, several issues, several series. You had, here came, of course, on Batman. You had the Return of Bruce Wayne. You had Batman and Robin. You had Batman Inc. He took the character to so many places that we had never seen before. He was able to take the entire history of Batman and make it to one continuity that made sense. You had, again, so much talent with him. You had everyone from Chris Burnham, Frank Quitely, Andy Kubert. You had not millions, but you had a ton of great moments and Batman defining moments. I mean, we've lived in this weird era right now where up until recently we had back-to-back Morrison, Snyder, and King that gave 3 distinct, very different, but also these long epic runs that if you were a fan of Batman, you had your pick. You had which one did you love. And for me, Morrison and Snyder are very, very close, but Morrison was able to do so much in honoring the past while also pushing him forward and really understanding the craziness of Batman, but also kind of in the reverse of Arkham Asylum, honoring what made the character so beloved in America, what made him such an American household name before he blew up overseas and all over the world. It's a run that has become legendary now, and legendary for a good reason. It is one that I highly recommend anyone and everyone picking up. As I do pretty much all this book, but if you're a Batman fan and you haven't read Grant Morrison's Batman for whatever reason, do yourself a favor, go pick it up. This is where we get really, really kind of difficult to place things in the list, because the top 5, for the most part, outside of number 1, can kind of be interchanged depending on mood and day. Because I love Grant Morrison, and it's hard enough picking 10. Putting those in order, very hard. So number 5, for me personally, I'm kind of shocked it's a little higher for me, but I think, to be honest with myself, I'm putting number 5 as Animal Man. His Animal Man run, legendary again, taking the character that no one at that point in time, and even to this day, really gave a shit about or even knew, and doing some of the most groundbreaking work for that time period, from the angle of relatable vegetarianism, of taking a real look at the meat industry, taking a real look at animals, what they represent to humanity, taking a look about the meta nature of comics. Of course, famously having himself written into the book, but in a, that sounds horrible. It sounds like a jump in the shark moment, but it wasn't. Having this great, beautiful moment of explaining the nature of comics, and then he would go on to kind of reiterate and define again and again and again. It's a beautiful run. It is a character defining run. It's a run that, honestly, up until Jeff Lemire, no one came close to having even on the same level of run. I think for me personally, Animal Man is basically Grant Morrison and Jeff Lemire. Both those runs, highly recommended. Number 4, another one that, oh, man, it's hard to say number 4, but the next 3 I do put above it. But number 4 for me, something that is such an amazing book and one of my favorite team books of all time. Number 4, his Doom Patrol run. His Doom Patrol run broke my brain, redefined what comics meant to me, and we'll talk a little bit later on this list about how it broke my brain, and you probably know what I mean if you know Morrison. But this run, introducing ideas and of this relatable underground team that was weird, of course Doom Patrol existed literally around the exact same moment of X-Men, but always built off the strangest heroes, the weirdest, and at this one, taking that idea to the nth degree and making them face problems that the Justice League had no chance of handling because it was so weird and so bizarre that only the Doom Patrol could do it. Introducing a plethora of amazing characters, storylines that just live in your head and will not leave. These stories that have amazing effects on you. I'm sounding like a broken record here, but if you have not read his Doom Patrol run, go out and read it. And much like I said with Animal Man, it's for me, Animal Man is Morrison and Lemire. For me, Doom Patrol, if I'm being honest, it is essentially Morrison and Way. And of course, Gerard Way being extremely influenced by Grant Morrison, and there being a lot more Doom Patrol writers than Animal Man, but I think those are the only two to really capture. Although the show, in fairness, being heavily influenced by those two runs, captures the characters extremely well. Morrison took this weird idea and made it even weirder, but somehow made it even better. It is a huge feat. And we're going to continue on the team books because number 3, a team book that would go on to influence pop culture in ways like The Matrix. Matrix would not exist if it wasn't for my number 3, The Invisibles. Another jaw-droppingly gorgeous, tons of great artists, tons of great talent. Tells this amazing story of magic, chaos, change, the future, how to embrace it, how to be the best you, but also how to embrace the darkness with the light. Would predict the future in some scary ass ways, even though the book ends at 2012 with the end of the world. Spoiler, but not so spoiler if you read the book. It's also a very old book at this point and several issues. It is so poignant in today's times. I've been currently rereading it, and it is amazing how well it holds up. They around 2012, released a giant omnibus. They've released hardcovers in 4 volumes. It is a very easy to find book, and again, if you're a fan of The Matrix, there's been tons of accusations that the Wachowskis just straight off ripped off The Invisibles, that on the set, Invisible Comics were there. Grant Morrison has, a million times called it basically an Invisibles movie. And there's a ton of rumors. Well, not rumors. Grant Morrison's actually confirmed he is working on Invisibles TV show that may happen sooner than later, especially with the success of Umbrella Academy and Doom Patrol. So go get yourself familiar with the fucking Invisibles. You will love yourself for it. Number 2, probably the most famous book he's done, the most in the big 2 world, the most important, what most people would call the greatest Superman story ever written. Number 2 is AllStar Superman. It has my favorite Superman moment with him saving the girl from suicide. It has 12 issues of Superman defining moment after moment after moment after moment. If you don't like Superman, this is the book to go with. It's weird, it's trippy, but my God, it's incredible. It is. It's a little bit in the middle where maybe it sags a little bit when it gets to the Bizarro stuff, but it never becomes bad. It never becomes a bad book. It never becomes anything. It never becomes anything less than great. And at its best, it's the best. For me, there's nothing even close in the Superman lore of AllStar Superman. You have AllStar Superman at the very, very tippy top, and you have several books that kind of get at the foothill of the mountain that is Superman, AllStar Superman, but none quite top it. For me, number one, if you know me, you knew this was coming. It is my all-time favorite comic. It is a comic that I can legitimately say changed my life and changed how I view the world. Number one is Flex Mentallo. 4 issues, in my opinion, the best 4 issues of comics ever written. I'm just going to say it there. Yes, it's trippy. Yes, it's weird. It's bizarre. It takes many twists, many turns. But it will, if you allow it to break your brain, it will break your brain into the idea of what is fiction, what is reality, what is self, what is ego, what is id, what does superheroes represent in the modern world, what does creativity and creation represent in the modern world. It is a story that I think is timeless, and I think has only gotten better and better and better and more poignant for me personally over time. It is a book that I recommend more than any other. It is, in my opinion, the greatest Grant Morrison story. I don't know what else to say about it. If you haven't read Flex Mentallo, fucking read Flex Mentallo. Please. It is a part of what, Morrison's triptych of the Filth, Flex Mentallo, and Invisibles. It is, I think, the spine of that. If I want an honorable mention, there's just too many honorable mentions to fucking name. There really is. Nameless, The Filth. We've mentioned Venorama, Joe the Barbarian. He has had his Action Comics run, his even going back to Zenith, and even his Zoid Spider-Man stuff. He is one of those rare writers where I think I love him for his art and for what it represents, but I also think he himself has just continually evolved, not just himself, but what comics represents to the masses. And I know the detractors that don't like Morrison, I get it. He's definitely not for everyone, and I would never say, oh, you're wrong if you don't like this story. You're wrong if you don't do this. You're wrong if you don't do that. But I will say, I think people have to have a more open mind and are more into the trippier, crazier stories. These are the ones that I would go pick up first. If you're, for some reason, listening to this and you've never read any Morrison, please, if anything else, pick up Flex. Pick it up. They've reprinted it. It used to be impossible to find, and now it's finally possible. Go pick it up. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please leave a comment below. What is your favorite not Flex Mentallo story? There's not a ton of them, but what's your favorite Grant Morrison story? What is your favorite book I put on this list? Do you agree with my list? Do you not agree with my list? Please let me know below. Thank you guys so much for listening. I will talk to you soon and hopefully have more videos out. Have a good night.